Hey everyone, I'm Nick Syke, and today I'm going to share with you some lessons that I've learned through doing science communications work at No Ideas Media. Communicating the nuances of plant science and farming is a really interesting job, but I'm sure you can recognize that it isn't easy to convince people who would rather not be convinced that modern food production is safer and more sustainable than ever before. At No Ideas Media, we like to think that our approach is working and making a difference. So I want to share with you some tips for ag and science communication on social media. Number one, winning the debate doesn't mean converting the person that you're arguing with or getting them to admit that they're wrong. If that's how you're measuring success, you'll never ever be successful. When you're in a debate and it's getting heated or clearly not going anywhere, or the person that you're arguing with is clearly not listening to you, keep going. It is 100% not at all about the person that you're arguing with. It's about the people who are silently watching and seeing who has the superior argument. Be the person who does a better job arguing their point. Number two, don't take a shill accusation too seriously when it happens. And it's gonna happen for sure, okay? When somebody says, oh, you just work for Monsanto, how much are they paying you to defend GMOs? It can be pretty easy to get mad about that, especially if you aren't working for Monsanto. Just remember, a shill accusation is a sign that the person lobbying that accusation has no other leg to stand on and no other refutation of your point. A shill accusation is really an ad hominem attack, which means the person is attacking your character rather than your message. Obviously, that means they can't see a way of dismantling your logic, so they fall back on attacking you personally and writing off your logic by saying it was bought and paid for. A shill accusation is a sure sign that you've almost won the debate. 3. Analogies are often far more effective logical devices than hard analytical facts are. Example, if somebody says, oh, it's unnatural to take DNA from one organism and put it in another, you could respond with a half dozen examples of horizontal gene transfer occurring, or you could point out that DNA is a common language, and it's not like taking genes from bacteria and putting them in a plant is like taking Mandarin characters and putting them in an English sentence. The fact is, links to information in a comment section just aren't that effective because the source can always be written off. A person in hard denial can just as easily call you a shill as call your sources a shill. But an analogy is a bit harder to argue with if it's accurate. Number 4, practice the logical principle of charity in every single response you make. Charity, in a logical sense, means not assuming the other person means the worst possible version of whatever it is they're saying. Example, somebody says, oh, modern farmers are total criminals. Have you seen some of those videos and the way they treat their animals? I don't support animal cruelty. Now, I would start my response to that point by saying, yes, I have seen those videos, and I agree with you that those are horrendous. No animals should ever be treated that cruelly. So thank goodness that those videos are not reflective of the majority of livestock farmers. Those videos really reflect the worst of the worst, but if they are all you've seen, I can see where you're coming from. Have you ever visited a dairy operation? I'm sure there are some in your area that give tours, and most farmers who raise livestock are really proud of their operations and willing to show them off. That language of, I agree with you on X, or I can see where you're coming from on Y, that is extremely powerful and disarming. Number 5, and this is an important one. Don't mock people's bad grammar as a first retort to their argument. Look, it's really easy to fall into this trap because it's very common that people who stand against science or farming, who buy into the woo of clean, natural eating, etc., they are often really bad with their grammar. But in criticizing their grammar over their argument, you're making an ad hominem attack against that person. You're shooting the messenger, not the message. Remember, the bad grammar is often a sign of a lack of education, and a lack of education is a vulnerability that gets exploited by bad actors in food marketing, which is often why people with negative perceptions of modern ag or genetic engineering, they often have bad grammar. 6, don't take it personally when you're being personally attacked. Okay, now I am neither a scientist or a farmer, which is part of the reason why I have a good capacity for not taking these things personally. When somebody attacks farming or attacks science, they're not really attacking my livelihood at all, so it's easier for it to just roll off my back. I totally understand that. At the same time, I've had comments where I've been told I was a bad parent or I was a bad person or that I'm a Nazi, and I'll tell you, if those comments came from a person who'd ever actually met me or had any idea what kind of person I actually am, those comments would hurt a lot. But why would I let personal comments from someone who doesn't know me personally have an impact on my day? If I'm called a Nazi for supporting GMOs, A, I recognize that that's an ad hominem attack, so I'm winning anyways, and B, that person has no idea who I actually am or my actual motivation, so their opinion of me means nothing. 7, feelings over facts. I know this is really, really tough for fact-driven people to accept, but your facts are not going to change people's minds. Your feelings, however, they might. This is especially true if we're talking about science topics that end up inside of people's bodies. Vaccines, medicines, foods. Anything that people internalize will be judged far more on instinct and emotion than it will be on facts and statistics. And I know that sucks, but that's just the way it is. We can keep presenting the thousands of studies that confirm genetically modified food is safe, but compared to that one picture of a lumpy rat that makes us feel icky, those thousands of studies lose. But emotional stories don't need to be like a contrived thing. This cassava farmer that I met in Uganda who needs genetically engineered cassava so that disease won't wipe out her family's livelihood, that's a pretty friggin' emotional story, and it's far more effective at illustrating the need for technology than a graph showing mosaic brown streak-induced crop loss in Ugandan cassava crops. And number 8, lastly, always be kind. This is without a doubt 100% the most important thing in science communication. I say lots of words doing this work, and to this day, I think one of the most enlightened things that has ever popped into my head and come out of my mouth is the following platitude. If you can't convince them modern ag is a good thing, you can at least convince them that people who think so are unflappably kind. This might have more to do with my own moral compass than with being an effective communicator. I judge my own integrity not on how often I win a debate, but on how often I am the better person in those debates. For me, it's more important to be a decent human being than it is to feel I'm right, and this colors the way I approach science communication. Again, for the people watching exchanges in the comment sections, if they see enough of my side, I would hope that my desire to be gracious and compassionate comes through, because that shifts perceptions in a positive direction far more than being right, but also kind of being a dick would. I have more insights into this and quite a few more points because we've dealt with all kinds of conversations in our comments. And I like to think that we've got a knack at No Ideas Media for being kind and changing minds. Was this interesting and helpful to you? Let me know in the comments if you have any other science communication strategies that have worked for you. If there is interest in this topic, I can do another video with more strategies and maybe even interview some other science communicators to get their take on this as well. I hope this video is helpful to you. I'm looking forward to reading the comments on this one. Have a good day.